All right, jumping back into some baseball content, we let Zach go, but tidying up on the week, I'll pass it to Sai here to do our states of the union for our respective teams that I think had a little bit of opposite weeks. So let's start on the good side with your guys.
Okay, let's go New York Mets. I'll put the hat on. We might as well flip it. Let's go New York Mets. Great week. Our pitching has been terrific. Honestly, way better than I could have even hoped for, and I think a lot of Mets fans feel the same, and especially the rest of the MLB. Even putting aside our optimistic fan base, it has been shocking to see how well our starting pitching has done, especially with guys like Manaya and them out, just keeping us at bay. Most games, 2 to 3 runs at most through 6, and then our bullpen comes in, and our bullpen has been dominant. Shout out to guys like Max Kranick, like people you didn't expect to be this good. You got Brazaban, you got guys coming in making big outs in the middle innings, and then passing it over to guys like Diaz and others who have just been terrific. So our bullpen and our pitching gets a massive nod. The funniest part of all this is we just swept a very up and down Blue Jays team. I don't know what to think of them, but we swept them. We took the Marlins in a series. The funniest part of it though is I think some of those games we made way more difficult for ourselves, especially the Marlins ones, because our offense is nowhere near where I think they're capable of being. I think Juan Soto is still needing to heat up. Francisco Lindor just got hot this series against the Blue Jays, so he's slowly getting there. Nimmo isn't quite where he wants to get. It's truly been Pete Alonso carrying us for the most part for a week, and then Jesse Winker gave us a massive game this weekend to win one of the Blue Jays ones in the comeback. But I think as we start to see our offense heat up a little bit more as the weather gets a little bit warmer, we get a couple of these pitchers back. I love the trajectory of this team. We still have some prospects we need to bring up. But the main people I want to touch on right now are Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty. Young guys, they're struggling immensely right now. I expect Vientos to fully figure it out and bounce back throughout the course of the year. I think he's coming off his first full year of playing with the Mets, and he's pressing a little bit too much. Beatty is a tough situation at second base, but if we're able to win games with him struggling as much as he is, either he figures it out, or we get McNeil, or we get along with McNeil someone like a Mauricio or someone coming up. If we can add something to that second base in terms of hitting, our team, it's to the moon in terms of what we can do after that. So I love where the Mets are at. I'm going to leave it at that. Ev, talk about those Orioles.
Yeah, much less pleasant week for week in Birdland. Lost the first home series of the year to Boston, which obviously Boston a great team. Kind of came down to Charlie Morton, who had another weird outing, rough outing, because he gave up 5 runs on a couple home runs, but he also had 10 strikeouts and was looking kind of disgusting. So it was very bizarre, but ultimately that's probably the biggest issue right now is that Charlie Morton spot in the rotation with 2 bad starts. And the one mention I'll make is the mess with the Orioles right now that has Orioles Twitter just ablaze. Obviously we've been over the last few years a team that loves to match up, get all the guys in the lineup consistently, and it's kind of boiled over where yesterday they started Jorge Mateo, traditionally an infielder, in center field, which we knew was kind of going to have to be part of the plan. And now with Colton Cowser out, it kind of furthers that need for someone else to step up in the outfield. And he basically cost them 3 runs in the first inning of that game with just a play that was, I think, 99% probability to catch, according to StatCast. So just an absolute nightmare. And I think Brandon Hyde could develop into being on the hot seat this year, which is something to monitor. He was kind of in that spot at the end of last year, just with, you have a great year 2 years ago and you don't see improvement last year. If anything, things got worse. And if that continues this year, obviously there's front office questions as well. And just the lineup decision-making, and Jackson Holiday has 3 hits one day and is out of lineup the next day because there's a left-handed starter, and there's moving guys around in the field, different positions and different spots in the batting order. it's almost feeling like they need a veteran manager that's going to just set and forget the lineup, which is, I love playing matchups, but when you have a team that offensively and like position player wise is so loaded, it reminds me of like that Braves like core team where it's like you're not taking any of those guys out, just sit the lineup there, keep them in their same positions and just let it ride. It almost is feeling like it could develop into a situation where they need that. And shout out someone on Twitter that mentioned Terry Francona being available this offseason. I worry that is going to be really painful, and I was very upset when I read that was maybe an opportunity to capitalize on someone that could do that. But still a long season ahead, frustrating week, but hopefully, I think they're just maybe kind of tinkering with some things and trying to figure out what works. So, but yeah, need a good week here with Arizona, which is going to be tough, and I think it eases up a little bit from there. But yeah, frustrating week.
I can imagine, especially knowing the amount of talent you guys have. It's always frustrating when you're capable of better output. But the good thing is early in the year, and I think y'all obviously like it. You just mentioned it, there's tweaks that need to be made, and I think sometimes you got to audition people early to figure out what they're capable of, so you're not doing it late when the season's when you're in the hot seat trying to make playoffs.
And Gunner's
Quick,
back. Gunner is back this week, so
yeah,
that's good news. Yeah,
that'll be
so that's
immediately
good
make
news.
you guys, infinitely better, stretch the lineup out more. One thing I want to know about is, first of all, I think it has been proven the LA Dodgers can actually lose a game. Um, when the Phillies took two from them this weekend, which was a massive series for the Phillies, making a statement early in the year, winning 2 out of 3. But here's the crazy part: the Dodgers are no longer the leaders of their division after losing 2 games and being 9-2. What are we thinking about these San Francisco Giants, Evan? What you think? You believe any of the buzz? You think they're going to do something this year?
I mean, you got to give him credit, like I mentioned, I think on maybe the preview that the starting rotation, does actually look pretty good. Verlander hasn't looked good, ironically, but like Robbie Ray and Logan Webb at the top is really strong, and they have a lot of nice young pitchers. It's the bullpen, I think, is a big improvement. Like they were able to find Ryan Walker last year to shut down the back end because Camilo Doval was like getting sent to the minor leagues and was a complete mess, but he looks back to form this year as well. So I think that the Doval add to the bullpen, add from someone that was already there, but it is a big piece. And then like Elliot Ramos, stud, like they just got, players offensively that you don't really know about. Jung Hoo Lee, I like, Willie Adames was a nice pickup. So, I'm not fully buying into it. Obviously, it's a very, very tough division. Padres are playing just as well. Dodgers, we know, and we know Arizona is going to be good. So, but I don't know. Who knows? They could be good. They could last into a playoff team.
I mean, we'll see. If because the flip side of that is, do we think the Braves are ever going to win a series? 1-8 to start the year, man.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I actually did a little playoff, like kind of resetting after the first 2 weeks, and I like the Braves. It's going to be tough. They're digging themselves a deep hole here, and like with the injuries and Ronaldo Lopez going down is huge, and they didn't have a lot of depth there to begin with, and Jerks and Profar. So, obviously, I think the Phillies and Mets are both locks to make the playoffs, and the Central looks like it's going to be abysmal. I think the Cubs will end up maybe I call them overrated, but they might end up being good. And I think the West has 3 teams, and there's 4 teams that could do it, but I think that's why the Giants maybe are in a good spot.
I think another issue I see with the Braves is even they're already 1-8, and I was never really that sold on their starting pitching this year to start off with. And I worry that when you dig that deep of a hole, then it's a lot more pressure on your pitching, and they don't like they have the top end with guys like Chris Sale, but I don't see the depth of pitching that some other teams have and that they've had in years prior with some of the guys that are no longer there that have gotten older. So I do worry about that. But at some point they'll get Acuna going and stuff. Hopefully, it just won't be too late.
Yeah, that's true. One hot take I have for you after that, you're not gonna like it, but after that Dodgers series, the Dodgers Phillies, I think the Phillies are gonna beat the Dodgers this year. That's my big time overreaction to this weekend. One of the reasons, sneaky, Shohei Ohtani, for whatever reason, cannot hit at Citizens Bank Park. Small sample size, but he's not good there. That could be a factor. And the Phillies starting rotation, like, give me a break. This is some ridiculous stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, we know what Wheeler's about. Jesus Luzardo looks back to full form and better than ever. Obviously, it's only 2 starts. Again, very small sample size. I love Christopher Sanchez. Aaron Nola looks rough, and he had a velocity dip, so that's definitely one to watch. But Andrew Painter is going on a rehab assignment. That's arguably the best young starting pitcher in the sport prospect wise. He's definitely one of them. And Ranger Suarez will come back at some point. Taijuan Walker looks fixed as like more of a depth arm, but he looks fixed. That starting rotation is crazy. The bullpen, they'll need at least 2 additions at the deadline.
Yeah, at least 2. Yeah.
Because Jordan Romano looks like it's just a nightmare signing. But the beauty of a playoff bullpen is you're going to be able to add in Ranger Suarez. You're going to be able to add in Andrew Painter if everyone stays healthy. So, and the lineup looks great right now. So I think they're going to get the Dodgers this year. That's my prediction.
That is definitely a hot take. I will not agree with you, but I do like the hot take. I think the Dodgers will beat them in like 6, if not 5. And it's not because their pitching isn't great. It's because the Dodgers pitching is better when they're healthy. That's just how I feel. And you just talked about the bullpen being able to add those guys. The Dodgers bullpen is already one of the best in baseball, and then they're still going to be able to funnel in great starting pitchers into the bullpen when the playoffs come around. And not to mention their lineup is just so much deeper. I know Freddie had that freak shower accident or whatever, but I'm hoping that hoping he'll be good and back to full form. But it's the depth of the lineup of the Dodgers that I think differentiates them. Like the Phillies look good right now, but I still worry about the bottom half of that lineup. And some of those guys are older, like JT Realmuto and guys like that I just, I can't expect them to do what they did prior. But of course, you still have Trey Turner, you have Bryce Harper, you have Kyle Schwarber. So I'm not trying to take anything away from them. They're an amazing team, and they're going to keep it fun. But I'm still not out on my team winning that division, even though they are on paper a little bit better. I still think we got a real shot because we haven't even come close to playing our best baseball yet, and we're 6-3. So I'm pretty happy with our start too.
Yeah, Snell already hurt though. The injuries are already piling up for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But that's the thing.
Sasaki did look better though too. And Dustin May, shout out Dustin May.
It's so good, man.
If you haven't read his story about how he almost died because he tore his esophagus on a piece of lettuce, like this story is insane. And for him to come back and he looks great, like it's just such a cool story. So I definitely read up on it. But
yeah, Dustin May could be a number 3 pitcher in a lot of rotations. He's got that upside. At least as a couple years ago he was, and like it's crazy to think that he like is only pitching right now because of injuries and because Shohei isn't back. Like that's insane. Like they're just so deep. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying they're deep, but they're not. None of their guys are durable. So like my thing about everyone's like, oh, the Dodgers have all these injuries every year because those are the types of guys that they bring in, knowing that they're going to have a lot of injuries. Like we know, like Glasnow, Yamamoto, Sasaki's young, Otani. Like none of these guys are durable. Snell is already hurt. Like, and Dustin May's never been durable in his career. So
apparently Kershaw looks good in this pen, so he'll give him a 5th guy too if they need him. No, what I think is funny though is like they just proved last year that even with half their starting rotation out, if not more, that they basically like definitively won the World Series last year. Like that, and I think their offense is even better this year. So it's just like that part of it is menacing. But even putting all that aside, quick question for you: what'd you think of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signing a $500 million extension in the middle of a season? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great they got that done. I mean, someone that was born in Canada, so like, it felt like, I mean, the Blue Jays have had so much darn trouble getting a star to sign there. Like for them to have one there, that's like kind of a perfect fit for their setup, and to, if they let him walk out the door, it was, that was going to be a disaster. So good for them to get it done. Obviously, they paid a pretty penny for it, and great for Vlad to get that contract. So I think it's a win-win all around. And that's a guy you build around. You don't let him walk out the door, and they did just that.
Yeah, he must have really wanted to stay in Toronto. He must have loved that, that city or that area, because the reality is I am absolutely shocked otherwise as to why you would do it a couple weeks into the season when you are a free agent at the end of the year, because yeah, he got paid an insane amount of money for a first baseman. So I'm not saying there's a guarantee he would have done better, but why would you not hit the open market? Like, and win a few more dollars over. Maybe he just was not happy with Toronto, and obviously like $500 million is a ridiculous amount of money. So it's not like he got gypped. I just think it's just shocking to me that he just wasn't like, you know what, let me just hit the open market and get like the highest offers I can and come back to these guys and get a little bit more out of them, because they were willing to pay $800 for Juan Soto. It came out after Soto's deal that the Red Sox and the Blue Jays were willing to match the Mets, but he made it very clear to them that he just didn't want to come there compared to New York. So yeah.
Yeah, I think with the years too, like the security, in most cases, I agree with you. But that money for, like you mentioned, a first baseman, like the years, like, and he is happy there. So, yeah, I think it all makes sense. I mean, any of these like big extensions caught your eye? It was like this was extension week. Jackson Marrow, Ketel Marte, who immediately went on the IL after getting extended, but Garrett Crochet, and there was even a couple others. So, anything catch your
Wait,
eye
wait.
there?
How much were Jackson Merrill and Garrett Crochet? I didn't see them.
So, I mean, Merrill's is interesting because it was like an arbitration buyout. So I want to say it was like 8 for 130 or something like that. So,
Pretty good.
but yeah, I mean, great for them to get that done. It's so tricky with these like arb buyout. It's very hard to like
Yeah,
decipher the dollars, but it really is just it gives the team like that they know what their cap's going to be, as
yeah.
opposed to him like he could go to arbitration and like be due like 20 million, or he could be due
He could
like,
easily be like
5
25.
million if he has a bad year or something. And it just gives them that, knowing that they have a guy there, it just gives them that like kind of not, I guess, opposite of flexibility, that like structure with their payroll. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite players of baseball. I'm always biased for the guys on my fantasy team that have been kind of dynasty ride or die guys, and I just, that guy's an absolute superstar, like one of the best players in baseball this time, next year. He is big
Yeah,
time star.
I agree with you. I think that's a great signing for them because they get that extra couple of years. And I expect a guy like Merrill, especially by the time he hits those like big ARB years in the last couple, if he does what he's capable of, he might be making 30 plus million in arbitration because inflation is going to keep hitting at that point. Pete Alonso was making close to 25 his last year of arbitration. So there's no reason Merrill couldn't make over 30. So when you factor that in, I think it's a good signing by the team to get it early. What was Crochet's though, is what I'm curious about.
I don't remember. I want to say, I can look it up.
I'm wondering what a pitcher got with 2.5 years of. I think it's 2.5 years of team control still left.
I want to say 180.
That's pretty good, man.
Garrett Crochet. While I pull it up, it was pretty funny. He, like, the day after getting the extension, he just absolutely mowed down my Orioles. I was like,
He was probably
uh,
feeling very good after
yeah,
that.
170, boom, very close. 6 years, 170.
That is
Which,
actually such a good deal for the Red Sox because if you think about it, that means you basically get him through his whole prime, and you're not paying like at least AAV wise, you're not paying some absurd amount. I would be willing to buy out arbitration for that so that you're not having to pay like 300 after like 2 years. You know what I mean? Because he would have gotten like a Garrett Cole type contract.
well, I think that's pretty much full extension. Like, what did you say? 2 years? I was gonna say, is it even one?
Oh, I thought it was two.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
think you're probably right. It's probably two, but yeah. So most of those are all New Year's, and obviously there's the injury risk. But one of the most interesting things I heard, which is what Garrett said about the whole White Sox like bullpen thing, is that like with his health, it's so much easier for him to stay healthy as a starter. Actually, even though, because like once he kind of does his like full warm up and like gets hot, it's not the extra pitches that are like a problem. It's that daily kind of up and down and like staying hot and like all that kind of, that's really hard on him. I thought
Yeah,
that
of
was a
course.
really interesting point by him. So yeah, good move by the Red Sox, unfortunately, to lock him up. I mean, he's so good.
I think the smartest front offices always try to get their pitchers with the random one-offs, like Blake Snell getting the big contract from the Dodgers. They try to get their pitchers in that like up to your late 20s, early 30s, and then would ideally like to move on after that point. I think the Red Sox did that perfectly because he's what 23, 24, and now they have him until he's like 31 ish or whatever it is, or 30. That's beautiful for them. He's going to be a menace in your division for a while, Ev. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
man.
it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but
I'm
anything
just
else?
I wanted him.
Yeah, me too. Anything else you got?
I got one last thing. Where do you think Sandy Alcantara goes? Because I expect him in my mind, I think he gets traded before like the trade deadline. Like I'm talking like maybe in the next month or two. He's going to build that value, and if the Marlins are smart, you sell him right when he's at his peak. Perform like after a couple like dominant starts, you sell him then. So
Yeah,
what do you think? Like, where do you think Alcantara should be?
I don't know, man. We got two possibilities here at the table right now, but I'm gonna say we don't get him just because I think they're kind of resetting for next year, and we've already traded the Marlins their starting third baseman and our Kobe Mayo is kind of the big prospect that would likely, be used in a deal something like this, who's also a third baseman. So I'm going to say we don't go double up with the pot or the Marlins. I mean, you guys, I think would be a
Yeah.
pretty likely situation. I don't know who else. I'm trying to think here, but so maybe you guys would actually be my guess. I don't know. I don't
It's
really have
got
a
to be
ton
a
in my
GM.
head.
It's got to be a GM that is capable of parting with his biggest names for the sake of getting a guy that in his prime who still has 2.5 years of control left. So that's where I actually think David Stearns could make his first like massive trade since he joined the Mets, because this is the perfect guy to trade for. You don't have to extend him. You get him for 2.5 because it's 1.5, and then you have a team option. So you have him for an incredibly reasonable price, and you have a true number one ace for your roster. So I hope it's us. I'm sure they'll probably want Sprout. I think a lot of Mets fans I think a lot of Mets fans think that Sprout is untouchable. I personally think that for Alcantara, I would do it. If it means 2.5 years and we're ready to compete right now, when we have Juan Soto, we have Francisco Lindor and Nimmo in their primes, you got Pete Alonso for this year, like you should be full sending it for the next 2.5 years. So I would do it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If that's the biggest piece it takes, I would definitely do that. I'm looking
I
at the
was
list. I don't know, man.
I was also listening to a podcast the other day, and somebody was joking the Dodgers might just do it just to screw with everyone.
Maybe if they have enough injuries. I mean, who else would even be in that market?
That's why I'm asking. The reason I asked you that question is I was like,
Cubs? Cubs if
maybe,
they stay good?
who you think they're giving up? They already traded for Kyle Tucker, so they gave up a lot for him.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, man.
I
Do the
think we're gonna
do the
have.
Giants have the pieces to do that?
I don't know how good their farm system is anymore. They already brought up a lot of guys.
I
My thing
think
with us is you're not going to get as much top end talent from us, but you're going to get. You could get a litany of like major league ready or guys who could come up in the next like, you know, however many months, and that might be enticing for the Marlins. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely clubs out there that could give them a better prospect, though. That there's no denying that. But we
yeah,
have a lot of guys that are like fringe top 100 or top 100 guys that aren't quite top 20 to top 25. So that'll be the differentiator.
yeah. I think it's hard to say who all is going to be in that market other than R2. R2 are the obvious ones. I don't have any other like obvious ones I know will be in that
I think y'all should
situation.
do it.
Yeah, I mean yeah. I mean, it's kind of a no brainer that we should do it. I
Yeah.
think like I was actually this is how frustrating it's got for the Orioles already this year is that last week I was like looking at next year's roster and not even this year's roster already, but like there's like next year's roster, assuming there's no other major injuries, is going to be like just like so incredibly beautiful if you do like three things, and one of those is trade Kobe Mayo. Like we have another pretty big outfield prospect that's 100% blocked Dylan Beavers, and one of our pitching prospects. It's like a great three-person package for one of these guys, like Alcantara. Pablo Lopez is another, and it's like a similar situation where you get him for like 2.5 years, and it's like solid. So it's just like that's
Yeah,
just do
but
it.
if you're gonna give up that much, just go get Alcantara. Like, don't wait and try to get Lopez. Like I think Alcantara being younger and having just won a Cy Young like a year and a half ago, that's the guy to go get. You know,
Yeah,
like
well, he's more
honestly,
value. You might need to give up more. It's like but it just get one of
he's
these
worth
guys.
it. You
Oh
guys
yeah.
could go
Well,
win.
I will say it's like his most recent full season was not good at all. He
Well,
looks back. He looks back,
he was
but
pitching though.
sure,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
He was
Well,
pitching with half an elbow, and they didn't know what was going on, and then they finally figured out that
yeah,
that happened. Because if you think about it, every other season he's pitched, he's not a big strikeouts guy though. That's one thing people don't realize. He's not a big K's guy, but
yeah,
he knows how to go deep into games, which is something pitchers don't know how to do anymore. He on average will go like 6 to 8 innings, which is insane, man. Like nowadays, like in this modern era, I mean, I'll take that all day, man.
yeah, yeah. I want Fromber in free agency, but I've come to the come to terms that the Orioles just aren't going to sign anyone, and I have to deal with what the other options available in the trade market. So
I love Fromber, but I worry he's going to get overpaid. That's my concern with Fromber.
I just think the durability there is like he maybe isn't like the number one 7 shut 10 strikeout guy, but like and in our case we kind of don't even need that like number one. I like Bradish and Grayson, health pending for both of them, but anyways I think he pairs perfectly with them. But I digress. There we'll certainly have tons of good trade discussions as the year moves on. Any others? I got two guys I want to shout out, but
Go for it. You go ahead.
Couple biased fantasy guys. I mentioned Jacob Wilson as a possible sleeper for rookie of the year. This dude is unbelievable. I think he's found some power, which could lead to like 20 plus homers. And if he does that, he's going to hit 300 at some point, like basically every year in his career, possibly starting this year. I think he's already batting almost 400 to start the year with a couple homers and driving and runs, elite shortstop defense. Like, I think he's my new top pick for AL Rookie of the Year. Jackson Jobe looks a little iffy early, and Sugano was my other sleeper, and I think he has a good shot because of the whole situation there. But Jacob Wilson for AL Rookie of the Year, and Logan O'Hoppe, best catcher in baseball. That's one of my other scorching takes.
Take.
This dude is an absolute stud that nobody talks about. He's homered in like 4 straight games. He's got 5 already. The bat is big time. Obviously, I'm being a little hyperbolic when you think about Rutsch and Cal Raleigh and Will Smith and all these guys, but Logan O'Hoppe is like the most underrated catcher in baseball. This dude's unbelievable. Check him out if you haven't already. So those are my bias. A couple of my favorite players in fantasy land and baseball land in general that are off to hot starts.
I love the shout out for the guys that don't get a ton of credit though. I love it. That's a good one. I also want to just say it seems as if the Rangers are back, at least early in the season. 8-2 start. They're trying
Jack
to make
Leiter. Jack Leiter, we should definitely mention. He looks great in 2 starts, and I mean that's Rocker looks like trash, but I think like you mentioned maybe last week, like not sure which one will be good, but I do think one will be good. And it seems like that's early, but playing out. So
and even if they ebb and flow, if one is good one week and the other happens to be good enough, that'll be good enough to get them by. But I think they got enough there. And DeGrom didn't have the greatest second start, but he said it was a mechanics thing. I'm inclined to believe him. I think they look good, and their offense is good, man. Like they got some power up there, so or down there. So
on the downside, the Cincinnati Reds, a team we both liked, I was about to curse because of how bad it is, but like an absolute disaster. They went 3 straight games only without scoring a run, right? And almost got no hit in one, or maybe they finally got a tally in the third. I mean, Evaldi, and then Leiter was the day after, so was the Rangers. But the Reds do not look any better, unfortunately.
My hot take is I don't even, actually, this isn't even a hot take. My take is that the National League Central is going to be the worst division we've ever seen. I mean, they have no redeeming qualities in the context of a team that I truly believe can make a statement or even win a playoff series. And I mean that with no offense to the Cubs. There's not like that much good about the Cubs for me to be like, oh, like for me to hang my hat on it. They're going to need Kyle Tucker to be, MVP plus, which so far he's going to need to be better than like Shohei and Soto and all these other guys. That's my thing. It's a very high like amount of pressure they're going to have to put on their best players for them to succeed. And I can see that. Yeah.
I am really liking their offense right now, although I take issue that all their infielders are the same. Like Swanson, Horner, and Matt Shaw feel like the same player to me, which is weird. But the pitching is Justin Steele does not look good. He's such a key for them. Imanaga's going to be good. Taillon's going to be steady, but I don't know. They're going to need more pitching. So
it's just there's not a lot of depth either, which is early in a year. If you're already talking about a team not having pitching depth, I think they're doomed. That's my new philosophy. David Stearns has changed my whole mind on pitching. I used to always be like, you need an ace. No, you need like 8 to 10 guys who can pitch for you to succeed throughout the course of the season. And then as you get to the playoffs, you'll figure out who your guys are that you can rely on. I no longer like that is what's the most important thing. So if you're already worried about that a week into the year or 10 days into the year, I don't expect you to be a playoff team, or at least in their context, they don't really have any competition at the moment. So they might be, but I don't expect any success out of them.
Yeah. 8, I feel like 8 is the minimum from day one, and not just 8 over the course of the year, like 8 that are available to go day one. So I'm not talking about like guys that are injured that are coming back or prospects that aren't quite ready. You need 8 guys from the jump, and probably if you have guys returning from injury and prospects. But I think that's probably I did want to shout out the Tigers as well, though. Casey Mize has found it. And when you throw him in there with Flaherty, Scooble, who has not been good through 2 starts, but obviously will be fine. Joe will get better. Oh my goodness. The Tigers look good, man. The Tigers look good.
You think you got them you feeling pretty good about them over the Royals?
I love the Royals too, though, man. I love both of these teams. I think it's going to be a fun division race down the stretch. The Royals are just built so perfectly for their ballpark, and they're both great. I love them. I hate the
You
Royals. The Royals are by far my least favorite team in the sport, just because of the Orioles, like knocking us out of the championship series in 4 games like 8 years ago, and just like they're infuriating to play against because they're play great defense and they're so speedy, and like they play to their ballpark and they get a dozen blue pits a game. But I
oh
love
you
how their team is built.
oh you don't like them, Evan? You're talking about the same era of Royals that beat us in the
Yep,
World Series.
you
It
know.
took away my only opportunity to win my Mets win a World Series in my lifetime, which had the greatest pitching, five that I've ever seen going into World Series, and they just blooped and blasted their way to World Series, and it pissed me off. Their number one pitcher was old man Johnny Cueto. I will never forget that.
Hey, they're still doing it to this day, but they're doing it well. But anyways,
You could argue those are the two easiest teams in baseball to root for as like just a fan of the game, and they're in the same division, which makes it so fun.
yeah, they're so hilarious. I don't even know if we're gonna leave this episode in the episode, but it's fun. They always save one roster spot on their offense for like the Usain Bolt of baseball, and they have an entire stable of guys like to the era we were talking about, right? Gerard Dyson was that guy, and then they had Terrence Gore for a while. The guy that cannot do. I mean, Dyson was actually a decent player
He
to
can
some
actually get
extent.
on base. He's the only
Yeah,
one that's good.
but
Yeah.
like it's like Dairon Blanco was, and he got hurt, and they call up this Tolbert guy, and it's like they pinch run him. He steals second and third. Like it's
Who
just
was the shortstop before Bobby Witt that used to that would get hurt every year before the season started, but like the 1 year he played, he stole like
Mondesi.
Mondesi. Yeah, there's another
Yeah, he
example.
was trash. Like, and it's always the last spot on their bench, and then he comes in the 8th inning in like a 1-run game, and he steals second and third, and they tied the game. It's every time, and I'm like, you cannot stop it. So frustrating.
Smart investment. Smart investment. They go 1 year. It would be nice if they could marginally get on. If you could just teach one of those guys to just try to walk, like more often. That's all you really need. My irony or the funny thing I always find is the fast guys never seem to really know how to walk, which I think is hilarious. Like it'd be such a fun skill set, but it is what it is.
Hey, well, if they know you can't hit, they're not going to throw anything that's not right down the middle. So
I guess that's true.
that's the thinking. But anyways, we'll a lot covered. Great episode. We'll see it. To try to package it up nicely, take some stuff out for you guys in a more digestible 50 minutes or so. But a lot of fun chopping it up across a bunch of different sports. So, Sai, you got any last words?
That's it, man. Great episode. I just happen to have all the sports on at the same time. It's a good time for sports. We also have the NFL draft coming in a few weeks, so keep that in mind. We got to be prepped for that as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
I guess next week more baseball, and then draft probably is the rest of April, something like
Indeed.
that. So, all right. Thanks everyone for watching. As always,
Mondays down south.
That was Mondays Down South.